I literally spilled the tea. Except this is coffee, not tea. Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. My name is Saajid. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about my favorite reads, my top 6 favorite reads of 2019. 2019 is now gone. That hoe is dead. We have buried her. May she rest in peace. And to commemorate her life, we need to talk about the stories that we enjoyed while we were in her. That didn't sound right. Anyways, in 6th place, we have Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis Penn. This is a literary fiction novel set in Jamaica during the 1990s. It follows 4 women, a mother, her 2 daughters, and one of the daughters' girlfriend. It's about classism, poverty, the corrupt tourism industry, gentrification, sexism, colorism, the exploitation of sex workers. Basically every single oppressive system that you could think of is in this book. So why did I enjoy a book that basically traumatized me? Because it's well written, it talks about a lot of issues very honestly, and it highlights a lot of problems that are experienced by people here in the region that are derivative of the problematic nature of the capitalist tourism industry. It's one of the few books this year that made me cry and that I had a huge emotional connection to. Dennis Penn is just an excellent and talented writer, and I do look forward to reading whatever else she publishes in the future. If you're up for it, if you can, please read Here Comes the Sun. It's fantastic. In 5th place, we have It's Not About the Burqa, which was edited by Mariam Khan. This is a non-fiction collection of essays by 17 different Muslim women based across the UK. And it's about them writing about feminism, faith, Islam, the hijab, mental illness, queerness, race, politics, all sorts of different things. We all know that across the world, certain narratives of Muslim women are pushed in the media and in politics to further certain agendas. So this book was a means through which some Muslim women can have the platform to write against that and to reclaim their own narrative. The variety and diversity of perspectives and experiences that we find in here are what really makes this a dynamic read. And it's one that I really connected to because all of these women were talking about issues that I find myself very invested in and very intrigued by. I particularly enjoyed the essays in here by Nafisa Bakar, Afia Ahmed, Mariam Khan, Afshan D'Souza Lodhi, Amna Salim, Raifa Rafiq, and my favorite essay in here was by Malia Buatia. If you haven't picked this one up as yet, please do. Go fix your life. Go read it. It's great. And that's on Mashallah Love. In 4th place, we have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is another literary fiction novel. It's a multi-generational family saga set between Korea and Japan. It starts off with Sunja and her mother, who are from Japanese-occupied Korea in the early 1990s. Sunja ends up moving to Japan, and we're following her and her kids and the kind of lives they live in Japan. It's a story about this family and their day-to-day lives and experiences and the things that affect them and how they're navigating this new environment and how they're holding on to this old identity and how that identity implicates them in this new environment. This book reminded me why I love historical fiction, because historical fiction allows us to imagine what the micro perspectives might be. Oftentimes when we learn about history, we often learn the bigger macro perspectives, like, what was going on in politics, what was going on in the wider institutional societal structures that were leading to certain events. And all of that is incredibly important, right? But it's also just as important for us to think about the day-to-day experiences of the people who were affected by these historical events. And historical fiction allows us to imagine at least what 1 or 2 micro perspectives might have been like. And I enjoyed this book for that reason. It was a really interesting way to learn about that history of Japanese-occupied Korea and the Korean-Japanese diaspora in Japan. We are on to my top 3 reads of the year. These are all YA novels because on brand. They're also YA novels about Muslim characters because also on brand. So in 3rd place, we of course have Love from Mother Effin A to Z by S.K. Alice. This book is so freaking good, y'all. This is one of the best novels that I've read in my entire life, and it's one of the cutest, most pure, and most adorablest. Yes, that is grammatically correct now, okay? When we're talking about this book, anything is grammatically correct. Books on the Face of the Planet. I love this story so much. I love everything about it. I love what it talks about. I love what it addresses. I love what it stands for. I love these characters. If you watch most Muslims' favorite books of the year video for 2019, you're going to see this book on that list because it is a book that really, really resonated with a lot of Muslim readers. And not only did it resonate with a lot of us, it resonated with people outside of the community as well. Because it's just such a wonderful story. If you haven't heard of it at this point, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It is a YA contemporary novel about two Muslim teens, one from the States and one from Canada, and they're both traveling to Doha for different reasons. While they're there, they end up falling in love. It's a story about them trying to make that love work, but mostly it is two separate stories about two separate individuals going through and growing through two separate set of things. Go watch my review. I did a full review for this one. I talked about all of the things. I articulated my thoughts there. Can't do that now for the life of me, so go watch my review and go see why this book is amazing and why it is objectively better than your faves. And that's also on Mashallah. And speaking of Muslim books that a lot of Muslim readers as well as non-Muslim readers loved this year, including myself, we have All American Muslim Girl by Nadine Jolie Courtney. Nadine is the current holder of my wig. I'm sure if you go in her house, you'll see it like on her mantle or something, because she snatched it violently with this book, and I really appreciated her for that. This is a story about a Muslim girl named Aliyah, whose parents are not very religious, and as such, she was never really raised with a huge connection to Islam. It's not until a bunch of Islamophobic things happen to her, kind of at the beginning of the story, that she's triggered to learn a lot more about Islam. So the plot of the story is essentially guided by faith. The whole book is about her journeying into Islam and figuring out what the faith means to her. That's what I love about this story the most. It's not a story about a young girl reluctantly or dogmatically complying with every, stringent aspect of Islam. It's a story about a young girl who's negotiating what being a Muslim means for her, and I love it for that reason. I also did a full review raving about this, so you should definitely go check that out. But if you're looking for a story with wonderful writing, great characters, an engaging story, and amazing relationships and connections represented throughout it, All American Muslim Girl is the only book you're looking for. Okay? So read it. Now we have my favorite book of the year, which was a very hard choice for me because Love from A to Z and All American Muslim Girl were both extremely important stories for me that I really, really connected to. So when it comes to my favorite book of the year, I have to think about the story that I was most engaged in, that I saw myself in the most, and that I had the deepest emotional connection to. And that ultimately was The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali by Sabina Khan. It's a story about a gay Muslim girl named Rukhsana who is going through a lot right now. Her mother ended up walking on her kissing her girlfriend, and she got slapped, and the girlfriend got slapped too. And before things get a chance to go really crazy at home, they end up getting a call from Bangladesh, where her parents are from, to find out that her grandmother over there is falling ill. So they end up going there to see her, but while they're there, Rukhsana realizes that her parents are up to something a little bit more sinister. So this is a really dark book, and it's a very triggering story, and it's a very difficult story to read. But if you're up for it, this is one that I wish I could link you to a full review, but I couldn't even do a review for it because I just can't talk about what this book means to me for so many different reasons. All I can say is that while I definitely acknowledge that this is far from a perfect story, it was the story that I needed, especially at the time that I read it. It's one of the first books that I read for the year, and it really set the tone for the rest of the year for me, and ultimately became one of my favorite books of all time, and one that I will go back to, and one that I will continue to read and continue to love. And this is an author whom I will continue to support. She has a second novel coming out this year, which I'm very much looking forward to, with another queer Muslim main protagonist. Sis, the gay Muslim agenda is coming to young adult literature, and there's nothing y'all could do about it except say Mashallah. Alright, so that is everything that I have to talk about with you all today. In the comments down below, I'd love to know if you've read any of these books and if you have any thoughts on them. Let me know if they were on your list as well, and what other books were on your list for your favorite reads of 2019. So with all of that in mind, with all of that being said, thank you all ever so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day. And until next time, inshallah, keep reading and keep sipping tea. This is coffee, not tea.